Hello, Dr. Rob.
Hey, Tammy. Good to see you.
It's great to see you. It's I love doing these with you. I like all of our webinars and things like this, but I always really enjoy Monday night. So
Well, we
the
get to
first
see each
question.
other and work together, and because we live in different places. Anyway, let's get started. Good to see you.
So the first question, and right now the only question, which is a hint to those of you joining, is I'm 31 years old and have three older sisters. Growing up, our father was an active addict, affairs, and my mom developed gambling issues after they divorced. Starting to keep my distance from my parents more now. Is it possible that not all my sisters experience a lingering effect of the environment we grew up in? I feel like a second-class citizen with my sisters. It seems like they can do no wrong and they patronize me for doing therapy. They don't know I'm an addict.
Okay, well, I have a good answer for this, but you'll be mad that I got it before you. Um, we have this little saying in 12-step recovery, don't compare your insides to other people's outsides. You have no idea what's really going on in their coupleships with their kids. You may see some things, but I think to assume that, these people who are doing great and everything's fine with, and they show no cracks, are pushing you away because you're the one with the problems, I think is unlikely. And I'll tell you this just from my own personal experience. I have a sister who I no longer speak with. And that's a big statement for somebody who's done all the work I've done. Meaning therapists try to work through everything and talk through everything. But I have a sister I no longer talk to, and we had the same childhood about a number of years apart. And I am an addict who had huge, huge emotional problems and has been in therapy for 25 years. And my sister has never been to a therapy session. We grew up in the same home. Her life is perfect. It's great on the outside, but I know her well. She has irritable bowel syndrome. She's sick every single day. She and her husband have I see it. Her child I can see damage. I see it because I, see these things as my job. But I'm just saying that I think that, so here I'll tell you one more thing. One of my favorite things that I learned in therapy. And this is a really good one. Tell me you like this one too. Move toward the people who care about you and move away from the people who don't. It's the best life lesson this older person can give you. Forever, we are often so chasing, well, why don't they like me? Why don't they pay attention? Why aren't I involved? But there are some people who just love me or will love you. Those are the people and situations. There are events where I thought, oh, I don't want to go there. I don't have to go there. Do I have to go there? My husband's like, do you feel comfortable and safe there? No, well, then don't go. So it's as simple as, look at Tammy said, I want to give some of it to you, Tammy. So please respond for yourself.
I agree with everything that Dr. Rob said. And I think about my own family situation. And one of the things that um, another family member said, actually, my daughter, who is a bright young woman, she said, you don't know your sister, you have more in common, because I had this perception of, like everything was perfect in her life and all of this. And we were so different. And really, when I finally was willing to ask some questions and get to know her better, I was like, oh wow, she had some of the same feelings as I did. So both are, I think, are true, but I absolutely know that the people I choose to spend time with, the people that I foster relationships with, are the ones that are safe for me. And I don't spend a lot of time on, like there are people, I've got several family relations that they are not in my near circle. I obviously family or I said ordeals, family gatherings, but
Sometimes
ordeals
a
is
cigar
probably.
is just a cigar. Please
So
continue,
so
Tammy.
yeah, there's some people that are in, I'm connected to them in some way, but that doesn't mean I'm connected to them, like other people. So you're in recovery. We get to choose. We have skills and tools and support to do life differently. So I encourage you to dig into the recovery tools and the recovery community, create the family and structure and support that you need and deserve. And, everybody gets, the sisters, they're older sisters, they may, well, who knows? Doesn't matter. You take care of you.
And I would add the word boundaries. We can have all the expectations of other people in the world. We can guilt them, we can shame them, we can ignore them. But ultimately, if they don't come to the table, you have to lower your expectations and have a different boundaries. Maybe you'll have Thanksgiving with them, with the kids, and won't stay there. Go back to who knows the level at which you will feel safe. I think one of the keys to our recovery is when we stop looking at other people and what they're doing, what makes them happy, and how we can fit in with them, and really focus on I know this for a fact. Deeper Dating, one of the podcasts. I really, really love this guy who does deeperdating.com. It's a website for people who are building relationships who are single in recovery. And he talked to me, and I really love this about this, the idea that a lot of us are so needful when we go into new relationships, or we think, oh gosh, how can I get them to love me or get them to value me? When the real question is, what do I like about them? What do I enjoy about them? How do we complement each other? Rather than, I wish they loved me. I wish they gave me what I want, and you can only, I'll put it another way, you can only go to the well so many times, and then you're just hurting yourself. And then you have to grieve that there's no water.
Yeah. 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 And I think that grieving is, I grieve the losses of the relationships I'd hoped for that I don't have. But I also understand I have relationships that fill me in a different way. Just because they're not biologically related to me doesn't mean that these people aren't my sisters, or whatever it is that that I need. So it's all good.
I guess I'll say one more thing that could go on forever. Time is a beautiful thing. I know people in their 20s and 30s who are absolutely convinced that life is this way. And I look at them and say, oh, you just are only 25, you're only 30. You get wiser when you're on the path that you're on, which is therapy. So you may rejoin around kids or grandkids or, whatever happens, but I would focus less on them and more on the people whose door is wide open and who think you're great. By the way, who's the braver person in a troubled family? The one who seeks out help and realizes it was difficult, or the one who says, oh, I can get through it, I'm fine, everyone's going to be fine? In our world, who do you think is stronger? Because I like the people with the cracks. They may have been glued back together, but at least I can see them. Tammy said to me once, I will absolutely shut up. She said, I never trust people who smile all the time. And right, I got to see the cracks, and then I feel safer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, oh shoot, I lost the train of thought. Doesn't matter.
I'm so glad, because I always think I'm too old, and now I think I'm not alone. What's the next question?
Okay. What are your thoughts about compulsive abusive sexual relational disorder in relation to the addict? CASRD. Compulsive abusive sexual relational disorder.
I've never heard of that, and I've been working in this field for 20 years. Tammy's pretty much been at every lecture I think we've ever experienced. What do you think?
I've not heard of that either. It sounds like compulsive abusive sexual relational disorder.
Well, there is no formal
diagnosis of that. Yes.
But I can drop a word in about what it brings up. We have this idea of erotic rage. And that's what comes up for me, is that some sex addicts are not just acting out their sexual behavior, they're acting out a lot of anger. Doesn't mean they're abusing you, or it just means they're not present with you. They're in their own, lots. So I absolutely do not think that abusing people and being a sex addict go together, except for the spouses who get abused by lies and secrets and all that. But we tend to be more passive. What a sex addict does is, I'm so angry at you and you ruined my day, so I'm going to go over here and do something about it, rather than being direct with you. Yes, Dr. Munwala. So Dr. Munwala was an intern under me for many years, and I can say that he's created a lot of concepts and ideas which are as yet unproven. So you can call anything you want, other than your belief. So I'll leave it there.
Okay. Do you have any advice for someone experiencing SLAA withdrawal symptoms 13 days in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what withdrawal is for you, but what I hear from most people, and I think this is actually chemical, it's not just emotional, it's probably both. There's a lot of longing, a lot of I wish, a lot of like, I need something, I want something, it isn't always sexual. And so my answer, well, there's two answers to this. One, Tammy will like, one you won't, she won't. The other is, I'm going to say this in a nice way, get out of yourself and get out of the house. Start focusing on other people, other things, because, whether I'm working out or I'm helping a friend or I'm building something or I'm not thinking about my troubles. And I know that sounds really dumb, but, and the other one, which Tammy may not like as much, is find some Netflix series. Like when my spouse was sick about, I don't know, what was it? Thank goodness, 2 weeks ago, about 6 weeks ago. And I was here for a month where I watched every single Downton Abbey episode. While he was getting better, we went through every Game of Thrones. So I'm not saying that's the best way, but if it keeps you home, if it keeps you sane, the most important thing is to not go back out there. So, and also understand this is going to pass. I think addicts feel like, I'm feeling this way and it's going to feel this way forever. And how am I going to handle it? And that's because we're not used to tolerating a lot of feelings. I think, you know, if you can wait an hour, talk to someone like Tammy or someone who's a friend or has a happy face, you know, you may forget all about it. We're a little bit, we're kind of like babies, you know, I'm unhappy and I'm going to, oh, mommy, pick me up. I feel better. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
well,
Tammy.
and it really is. It is temporary. This too shall pass. And while it feels horrible, and you may be experiencing anger. I mean, like I've talked to a couple of people lately who have said, I'm so angry. I'm mad that the consequences of, have all caught up with me, and I have to stop this. Like there, so all of those emotions are real, and they're, you're feeling them because you're not just numbing out, but you're also probably uncomfortable because you've not had to deal with that. So yeah, I mean, I have found that the more I focus on the problem, the less I'm looking at other options, and so I go for a run, I go for a hike, I go outside, I go look at something outside that is soothing to me. I read a great meditation just a little while ago. I had a couple of minutes and I was like, it was from Harriet Hunter on her journaling thing. I was
Oh,
like,
she,
oh, it's so good. It's so
she's
good. And
good.
I was, yeah, like her little meditations are like, so that kind of stuff to me was like, mind changing. So you're here podcast. Dr. Rob has zillions of podcasts, sex and relationship, or no, sex, love, and addiction. There's so much good stuff. Just keep, focus on the good stuff. You're here 13 days. Yay. Tomorrow's 14. Yay.
I wanted to just, if you don't mind, jump in quickly because I don't want to be flip about about Omar. Um, I think Dr. Manwala's work is very focused on this concept that sex addicts are perpetrators, and that we're actually offenders. Only we're offending the people we love, the people we care, or the whatever that means. And I just wanted to say that I just don't believe that. I think we're very broken people who are really troubled. In all the years I've done this work, and I think I know what it looks like when I think of the really, really sociopathic people who would hurt you in a dime. And out of hundreds and hundreds of people, I've seen a couple of them. One of them is in jail right now that I can think of. So, I try to give us addicts the opportunity to grow and be positive and heal, and not sort of sentence us to being these horrible, abusive people. We do some things that are not very nice, but that's not who we are. So anyway, I think that's just a difference in how we think about things, and that's a nicer
Yeah.
way to say it.
Well, and we end up hurting ourselves, even though we don't notice it as much. We hurt ourselves terribly by being disconnected from people that we love, and hurting them as well. So guilt, shame, all of those things. So, okay. So this one is, I am an addict in recovery, and discovery happened a few months ago. My partner and I have done disclosure and have therapists and groups. My addiction and infidelity have taken quite a financial toll with credit loss and the like. My partner now wants to manage all my finances and paychecks and everything. I feel like this is the only bit of self-identity I have left, earning and keeping my money, oops, sorry, and spending it appropriately now. And any thoughts on rebuilding my finances?
Okay, well, Tammy, what made you stop at the word "my"?
Yeah.
Or did you just have a little burp or something?
No, because it was like my money, mine. That's
Right.
what I want to. So.
What should I do with my partner with my money? So I think you should read a book I wrote. I really do. I think you've missed this book. I make 12 cents a book, just so you know. It's called Out of the Doghouse, a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. Out of the Doghouse, a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. And one of the reasons I'm encouraging you to read the book is I think you really have to understand two things: the depth of the pain you've caused, and how much humility it requires to heal. You are no, guess what the book is called? Out of the Doghouse. Why did I name it Out of the Doghouse? Because you're not in the house with your spouse. You have dirtied your home, is a great way to think about it. And I have a little puppy and she dirties my home. She goes outside with a little whack and I close the door and she doesn't get to come back right away. She's in the doghouse, and an hour later, whatever it is, she can come back in. You are in the doghouse. You've harmed your home. You've dirtied your home. Anyway, you got that part. So being in the doghouse means you are no longer equal. You are one step down, and you have to earn your way back to trust. So if your partner says, I would feel safer and more comfortable if I managed the finances, my response would be, that is so kind of you. And I'm glad it makes you feel more comfortable. If you need my help or explanation, I'm glad to give you any time, because you've been selfish for a very long time and you no longer have the right to say me, mine. So I think you need to get your head turned on right, to say it differently, and understand your role and this person's role and the victimization that you've caused. Read Out of the Doghouse, that might help redirect you. One of the things I really try to say in that book very clearly is you don't have to do all this stuff. You don't have to let your spouse into your finances. You don't have to let them have your cell phone number, whatever, contact information, whatever it is. But you do if you want to stay in the relationship. So, all bets are off on whether your relationship will even go forward. And I think your spouse is very generous to even listen to your excuses for why you want to hold on to the money, considering how much, if you have kids, I'm going to go on for one more second. I wonder if you have children, because I think about college funds and how they need to be given. And I've heard lots of people who, we always had food on the table. I took care of everyone. It's like, well, what if your kids had another $20,000 to go to school with? Or, I think we're so busy thinking about ourselves that we really miss the harm we've caused and what it takes to make it better.
Well, obviously I had a reaction with this, and with all due respect, I appreciate that you are starting the recovery journey. And I'm going to say you are starting the recovery journey. You are a few months in. You apparently, it sounds like, had therapeutic disclosure. Good. That's better than doing it on your own. But yeah, I mean, Dr. Rob has talked on this webinar series. It's 12 to 24 months of the partner being upset and angry and rebuilding trust. Just because your lips are moving and you're saying, I'm now going to be, financially, responsible, and I'm going to do everything right. We don't even know how to do that right, everything right. And there's a program for that. We have amends, all of these things. So you are on a journey. You are at the beginning of the journey. You will learn more. I love what Dr. Rob said. It's like, thank you for being willing to help me, because clearly I haven't done this well. That's what recovery is leaning into the people that know how to do things better than us, and we can learn. So, in 12 months or whatever, maybe you have more control over your finances. But
I want to add one more thing to that, Tami, because I absolutely agree with you. I also think that maybe, this is a message from the universe. This is a message that you're not listening to, which is, I have so many things on my plate. I'm glad to get that off my plate, because now I can go to a 12-step meeting. Now I can talk to a friend. I don't have as much pressure on me. Maybe what your spouse is offering is a gift, and you're seeing it in terms of something you want to hold on to, rather than something that might actually be great if you got off your shoulders. So there's another perspective for you.
Yeah, or maybe it's the two of you are doing this together. You are interacting and having a conversation.
Later.
Oh, you think so? Yeah. Okay.
Later, let her
All right.
have
Totally
it.
understand. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. That's all good. I'm a 40-year-old porn sex addict living in sobriety for just over a year. Yay. I attend 5 to 7 12-step meetings per week. After many partial disclosures, I am finally being honest and open. My betrayed spouse feels I continue to hide and is asking for clarification on several items where I've told the truth. My betrayed spouse knows I have done things that I truly have not. So I know you've done things that you haven't really done, and it's giving me one last chance to come clean. What advice can you give to get through this and past this, as I am being told I have done things that I have not done? So you track it?
I don't think that's a difficult question to answer. I think you need a professional. I think, you've done what you can and you are working on it and you've been more honest, but I don't know under what circumstances. Spouses want endless clarification. They want to know every single thing because they're seeking safety, and they feel like if they know enough things, they're safe enough to not get hurt again. So, your spouse doesn't know what you did, doesn't know what you didn't do, is asking for clarification, maybe about things that wouldn't be helpful, like very specific graphic details, which you may think, and a lot of addicts think, I've got to tell them everything. I got to keep telling them and telling them and telling them, I don't have the right to not tell them all the time and answer every question. And that's just not true. You can say, we're not going to do questions outside of therapy, or we're not going to do questions out of 1 hour a night, or whatever kind of boundary you want to set. So I think, and Tami, I have another thought that, that even just a few couples therapy sessions with someone who knows what they're doing can help you guys, redirect and let your spouse have no faith in you and no belief in anything you say, and absolutely be convinced that you've done other stuff. And you have to work your way back, building trust. And by the way, she may never believe those things. Who cares? Does it really matter that you went to the massage parlor 3 years ago and then went on and then went home, but she thinks you went to Vegas? What difference does it make? You lied, you cheated. So why fight for the things? Well, this is true and that's true. All I'd be saying is, I'm sorry I left you feeling like you could never trust me. I'm sure you don't believe anything I say. So, I will hold on to what I've told you, and hopefully in the future we can move past this. It's sort of like the last question, like, how can I convince my wife to let me use the money? How can I convince my spouse that everything's okay? It's like, it's not about convincing them. It's about looking at your side of the street and saying, am I being a good spouse? Am I showing up? Am I doing what's asked of me? Am I helping? And then what am I doing for myself to focus on myself? And I'll just say this to all the addicts. I say this to everyone who goes to our treatment center. Make a schedule of what you're doing for your recovery every day, Sunday through Saturday. And every single day, I'm doing this and I'm talking to this person. I'm going to this group, this can count. Monday nights, I go to group with Rob and Tabby. Tuesday afternoons, I listen to Rob's podcast, whatever it is, and put it on the fridge so your spouse can see. This is what you're doing every day. You want to earn back trust? Let her or him find you in the library, in a meeting at 3:00, just like you said on the calendar. So you're not ready for this person to be able to say, okay, I trust you, everything's fine. You have a whole process to go through before. And by the way, Out of the Doghouse wouldn't be a bad book for you to read either. Tammy, I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on and on.
No.
Anything else?
I really do agree. And like, this is exactly why I talk about, please don't do disclosure on your own. Please don't do the, a little bit here, a little bit there. Look what happens. I mean, this is exactly what happens. And your poor partner has a deeper hole to dig out of, and you do too, because it's like been, a little bit here, a little bit there. No, this is really all. Well, it really wasn't. I mean, that's, so unfortunately, a very negative consequence of, not having a professional, help you, not being transparent from the get-go. So you can
I
get
want
there
to
though. Yeah.
I want to add, not add, but clarify something, Tammy, because we use these words a lot, and I'm not sure
Yes.
everyone knows what they mean. So the word discovery means that you're a spouse and you ran into something that you didn't know, and all of a sudden you've discovered that this person you love or have been with or is your family member, they've been looking at all this porn, they've been, and then you realize there's a whole life going on that you didn't know about. That's discovery. Disclosure is something that's done in a formal way with a professional therapist, preferably a CSAT or someone who is trained specifically in this, and they will walk you through the steps of how to be honest, how to be clear, how to do it in a way that isn't begging for forgiveness or giving too many details, while at the same time, they have a path for your spouse to get support, to be nurtured, to get in a place where they can hear these things and then go cry on somebody's shoulder, and they're not just leaving the office by themselves. So we work very hard to build up the support of the spouses and clarify what it is you have to say. I don't do this any longer in outpatient. We do it some of our residential work, but it's really important to be clear on the differences. And I would never want to do, there's one more thing we should clarify. This drip, drip, drip thing, Tammy, that you talk about. Would you mind clarifying that?
So this person had said, and we've had, I've missed it, but
But I
we've
meant
had a
in
number
general.
of
Can you describe, like,
a partial disclosure. So probably got caught with a few things, and so okay, I'm going to fess up to those things, and or tell you a little bit more, or I'm feeling guilty about this one, or you're going to find out about that, so I'm going to tell you about that, but I'm holding on to these things because I don't want to hurt you. If you find out about this, you're going to leave me for sure. I mean, all of these things. So then it's continued lies and secrets, and then guess what? You tell more later. It's like, oh no, that's all. Oh wait, it wasn't all. And so this happens again, and it's like the poor partner is sitting there going, the other shoe is going to drop, the other shoe is going to drop, and now you're saying there's no more shoes to drop, and your partner's still going like, yes there is. It's a challenge. And like Dr. Rob said, disclosure is a challenging enough process that in our peer consultation group, Dr. Rob has a group for professionals from all over the world to join. And it's probably the number one topic that comes up because they want to do a good job with it, but it's not cookie cutter. It's not every disclosure goes this way and everybody does it. There's some guidelines, but it still is challenging enough for each professional and therefore couple. You absolutely do want to set it up to be something that provides a foundation of healing. and just drip, drip. I call them vomit disclosures, when an addict just vomits on the partner and says,
Thanks, Tammy.
here's stuff. No, it's true. Because then just think, the stench is left on the partner. They're sitting there
Oh,
going, what just happened? So no, it's a very good visual for what happens.
okay, I'll give you a different one. I
Yeah.
feel like the partners have fallen out a window and they finally think they've landed just the first floor, and all of a sudden that falls out from under them and they're in
Oh,
free
yeah.
fall again, and they think, oh, okay, finally I've landed, now I know where I am, I can start to climb out of the basement, and then it goes again. So they're never actually in a place where they can take their breath and say, okay, this is the bottom. And let me tell you what every spouse wants. They want to know everything. And let me tell you what every addict wants, not to tell them. So this is the tension that we have to work with, helping the spouses learn and feel supported in what they need to learn, absolutely, but not leaving them with information that's going to leave them hating themselves, or constantly have images in their head they can't get rid of. While the other time we're working with the addict to say, hey, this is your chance to get honest. This is maybe your one chance to get honest. And so let's talk about what honest is, what honest looks like, and in fact, I wouldn't do disclosure on the first session. It would take maybe, and this is hard on the spouses, you have to wait, but it could take maybe 6 or 8 weeks of us working together, me with the spouse, someone else with the addict, whatever, for us to get ready to do this. And we might even have these two therapists talking to each other, or even in the same room while you're doing it. So as Tammy said, there are lots of ways to do it, but disclosure is the beginning of the foundation of the repair. This is when the spouse gets to say, okay, this is everything. Do I want to live with this? Is this something I can handle? Okay, this is the bottom. Do I want to climb out? And they can't really go forward until they know. And every spouse I've ever heard says, I just want to know the truth. Let's move. Oh, sorry, Tim.
Well, I'm going to add one more thing. And I hear more often, I can handle the behaviors. It's the lies. It's the constant lies. So getting past that and starting to have a foundation of honesty is where the repairs can begin. Okay, the next question. The crux of my recovery is working through fear, shame issues, which are the biggest problems with my forward movement. I have been working on this for 3 years, but each therapist I have had has jumped around on this rather than tackling it head on. Within this, I also have family of origin issues that mingle with my fear, shame, and is part of the cause. My mom, whom I do not speak to at this time for almost 3 years now. Do you think it is best to focus on recovery with my CSAT and seek out an LMFT or for family of origin? That's a complicated question. Well, maybe it's not so much for you. So.
Well, no, I just try to pick out the key words that I think I can say something about, but you would probably pick out other words and you would say something. So I don't know about that. But so I guess I want to say something about shame. Shame, this feeling, the shame Brene Brown talks about. She's the best author to speak about shame. She's written several books. But basically, what any of us will tell you is that shame is us turning on ourselves and attacking ourselves. Shame sounds like I'm a piece of crap. I don't deserve to be loved. How can I do these things? What's wrong with me? And it usually comes in at times when we're either feeling some form of trauma or we're reminded of something that we feel bad about. Instead of feeling guilty, which is, gee, Tammy, I was late today. I'm really sorry. I feel bad about that. I won't be late tomorrow. Shame is, oh my God, I'm such a piece of shit, Tammy. Why do you even talk to me? And I better lie to Tammy about why I was late because I don't want her to be mad at me. That's what shame looks like. But I also want to tell you, and I'm probably the only therapist I've ever met who says this, I think shame is selfish. Because when I'm sitting around saying, I'm so awful, it's kind of narcissistic. It's like, well, you can live on that forever. But how about, I wonder how the people I hurt are feeling. I wonder how other people who've been harmed are feeling. I wonder how other people in recovery are feeling. Taking that focus off of how bad I am and starting to look toward, again, it's like we've said today, look outward rather than inward. So maybe these therapists have not jumped around the issue. Maybe there isn't a solution. Maybe the solution is, and I got to tell you this, the best advice I ever had about shame was a therapist who said to me, there's no there. You can go round and round and feel that and hate yourself, but the only thing to do with that, and I was shocked, he said, there's nothing to learn in shame. Get out of it. But, go to those 20 Netflix movies that I watched, get out. And once you're out of the shame, you can look at the world much more clearly and see it beyond your own pain. One more thing, and this is not a prescription, but I know there are a lot of clients I work with who have chronic depression. And so when they run into an issue that's shameful or overwhelming, especially those of us who are early trauma, they can't really pull themselves out of that because they're depressed. and they don't realize they're depressed, but their depression. So for some people, depression looks like reactivity. Like we can be angry, we can be irritable, we can shut down, or we can hate ourselves. And it really, the question you're asking is so important, because what you're saying is, how do I grow if I feel like I'm stuck in the same place over and over again? And to me, there's two answers to that. I don't think it's finding a fourth therapist. I think it is learning how to work through shame by being more open and being out in the world. And you might want to go see a good psychiatrist and say, I often feel so terrible about myself that I don't think I'm growing. And that might be the kind of answer that you've been looking for. Can't say. Anything else, Tami?
Well, I like that you said go see a psychiatrist, because too often I think people go to their general practitioner, and then the meds aren't necessarily the right fit for what you really need. So I appreciate that you said go to the specialist about that. So
Can I tell you one more thing about that, Tami?
sure.
There's actually new testing that tells you, they look at your genetic code and they say, okay, will this medication or these series of medications, like the Prozac family, will that help this person or not? And they can say, no, that won't be as helpful as this family, the SNRIs or whatever. And I think that's incredible, because back in the day, people used to have to go through trial after trial after trial to get to the one that felt right. And that's so crazy making. So these are, I don't know where they do them, Tami, you may know, I don't know, but I
I
think it's a
actually have
fascinating.
information, so email me if you're looking for that, because I do, and it also your metabolism. If you're a fast metabolizer, you need a different version than a slow like, it is fascinating. You really do. You can learn a lot about what your genetic makeup will, how it will interact with the medication. So yes, email me, Tami, Tami at seekingintegrity.com. Say genetic meds or something like that, and I know where the information is, so I can dig it out.
Did you know, Tami, that I signed up for one of those genetic organizations, I won't say which one, that tell you where you're from? And most recently I was on there to see if I had any new family members. Always like, does someone show up? And it said, let us show you by your genetic code how likely you are, how seriously you will suffer from COVID. And it gave a percentage, because they could look at the DNA structure of all these people who'd been on this particular site given their DNA, and they could say these people had this kind of DNA went to the hospital and some died. And so I could say I have an 8% chance, I'm vaccinated now, but it said I had an 8% chance of getting so ill that I would end up in the hospital. Things are changing, folks. It's
Yes.
really mind-blowing and wonderful. Anyway, enough about that. I think that's a
Okay.
cool fact.
It is. Next question. What are your thoughts on post-nup agreements for both the addict and the betrayed?
I think that's a question for an attorney. And I'm not sure what the purpose is. If a couple's coming back together, maybe, and they want to reestablish their relationship. But here's the thing I've heard about postnuptial agreements and prenuptial agreements, from what I've heard. And this is just what I've heard. I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving a professional opinion. You can't sue me. But this is what I've heard. They're not worth the paper that they're printed on, because there's always a way around it, some legal this or that, some clause that's missing. And a lot of people that I've worked with who have pre and post, it all got broken apart once. I've seen people had trusts, who the lawyers went in like, okay, if they just equally share it. And, so the way things are set up may not, when you got a really angry person who's going to go after their finances and fight you. That's the other thing, is, do you want to be in a fight later? Yeah, I would, if it were me and I was feeling really untrusting, I would say, what part is yours and what part is mine? And I want to have control over what part is mine. And you, just like we were divorced. And then if we work toward trust, we can rejoin our money, but let's figure it out now. I don't think a piece of paper is necessarily with expensive lawyers. Now, I'm not a professional. I don't know, they may work great, but I've just heard they're just another piece of paper on some level. Tami, do you know anything about this?
I do. I actually know a lot of, I do enough with the betrayed partner groups that I know a fair number of people who have said, as a condition for us continuing this journey, they wanted, some degree of security. So I don't know how valid they are, how, long lasting they are, but I think the willingness of the addict to be willing to sign it, that shows something. So to me, it was at least valuable in that, the partner, feels that they have some buy-in, and the addict does too. So I don't know. Okay, next question. Go ahead.
Just to you, I will say that we had an addict I spoke to recently who felt so badly about what he'd done to his spouse that he gave her hundreds of thousands of dollars just because he felt bad about it, that because he had it. But you know, I as the addict would be very prone toward being very giving and loving as best I could. What do we
So
got?
next question. What resources and tools can I use to help me in
Mm.
not dissociating during sex? Now that I am sober, I can't imagine having sex with another person without alcohol and while being emotionally sober.
I should write a blog about this, Tammy.
You should, but so I'm going to
You
point
know,
you, and I'll put it in the chat because Dr. Rob did a on In the Rooms, he did a video on this particular, like sex was great when I was high, now what? And so I'm going to put that link
oh.
to that video in the chat too.
So the basic answer is you got to trust your body. Someone else who violated you in the past that left you dissociating, they didn't respect your body and you didn't have a choice over it. Now you have to have safety and choice. Dissociation is about feeling out of control and I got to leave. This is just, I can't handle this. It's so scary, even if it's not conscious. So the number one answer is go slow. Maybe it's hand holding, maybe it's someone massaging your chest while you masturbate them. I mean, it doesn't have to be, maybe it's you're holding your partner while they are pleasuring themselves. I mean, you don't have to have, intercourse or any kind of penetrative sex in order to love each other and be close to each other. So now you're not with someone. So let's put it down specifically for you. These are therapy issues. These are things that you need to go get some. I mean, to me, this is a trauma issue. I think dissociation is, first of all, I think people who've been dissociated are really smart because they have found a way to disappear when they're in so much pain. And it's like some of us didn't have that skill and we just developed all other kinds of problems. So in some ways, the ability to just go somewhere else and put it somewhere else, I think is actually a skill set. And I would credit yourself for that. The question is, can I turn it on and turn it off? We all dissociate, by the way, folks. When I drive down the freeway and I was thinking about work today and I realized, oh, I didn't even remember turning my signal on. I mean, I knew that I drove appropriately, but I didn't remember every second because I was thinking about something else. I was dissociating, daydreaming, dissociation. It's healthy for us. However, when it's used in a means to run away from feelings or try to tolerate feelings that are overwhelming, it can make certain situations really difficult, like I can't have sex. So I would not see a sexologist because I think sexologists are not always focused on trauma. I really would go see a therapist who's worked a lot with trauma survivors. It's also in your body. Tammy, you remember that book called The Body Keeps the Score?
Yes, by Bessel van der Kolk.
I don't know how readable that book is. I don't remember, but
it's more academic, but there's good
right.
pieces in it too. But I think that he might have a workbook now about it too. But there's a lot of therapists that understand that concept and do body work as trauma work.
Yeah, and I would be in certain situations and I'd have some muscles start tensing up and I couldn't understand why. And I'd go to therapy and say, well, and there's many ways to work with this, but I think you won't be able to do this by yourself.
Okay, so next question. My SA is working on recovery. We found a person in SA meetings he attends once a week. We talk about the meeting and he confessed that he is afraid that if he works the program, he will become non-sexual. He said he feels shame and doesn't know how to have healthy sexual relationship.
Well, Tammy, why don't you start with that one?
Well, I'm a little confused. We found a person in SA meetings he attends once a week. So
I didn't understand that.
I don't know what that means because like if he attends a meeting, I'm a little lost on that. So this is fear, and he doesn't have to become non-sexual. Like we were just talking about, there's lots of ways to work through things. But there's a podcast on sex, love, and addiction that Dr. Rob did with Bill and Ginger Burkaw about sexual reintegration. There are, Dr. David talks about sensate focus. There's lots of ways to get through that, but his fear is also the ability to be an excuse for why I don't really need to get into recovery because look what's going to happen. It's going to be horrible, So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just thinking like an addict, and I'm thinking what a great way I can get you to shut up for a while is if I just tell you as a spouse, oh my God, I have all this shame, blah, 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 and I can't do this. And Who cares? So what if he doesn't have sex for 6 months? It's not going to fall off. It's going to be fine. Men think we have to sex all the time. We don't. Our bodies will take care of themselves. So what if he did become non-sexual? What if he didn't know how to have a healthy sexual relationship? You got to start with stopping the problem behavior. You got to start with not acting out the shameful behavior. Of course he feels shame around sex. What is he out there doing? What is she out there doing? So first, the behavior has to stop. Then the support and 12 steps and all that stuff have to take place. And then if this person is struggling with intimacy, which a lot of us do, because that's what underlines sex addiction, is an intimacy disorder, you'll have to get some therapy around that. But like Tami said, he's looking all the way down the path and saying, oh my God, bad things are going to happen down there. He's not looking right in front of him, which is a spouse who's really hopeful that things are going to get better, and sitting back and saying, on some level, why are you bullshitting me when I just need you to get to work? I know. Tami, you have any other thoughts?
I do, because the other thing is we talk about the meeting, and I want to be really clear that, it's Sexaholics Anonymous. I mean, anonymous, talking on some level about the meeting, like, that was a really good meeting for me. It was important for me, whatever. But I don't talk about the details in meetings. That is kind of sacred within the meeting. I don't talk about other people. If I'm in the grocery store and I meet somebody, and I say hi, like now my family kind of figures it out, but I never call out somebody else. But I'm really confused and concerned about the "we found a person in an SA meeting that he attends once a week." And honestly, if all he's doing is attending a meeting once a week, that's a whole nother reason why he's never going to get, he's never going to get different or better. You're talking about a chronic condition that is pervasive, and he's going to one S meeting a week. So I hope he's here listening. Next question. You ready?
Sure.
Okay. My husband of 30 years had unprotected sex with a prostitute 7 years ago. I found out when I got an STD, which he tried to say was a lap dance on his 50th birthday gone wrong. He was
It sounds
recently
like
charged.
it went exactly as he wanted it to go. Sorry.
He was, and we don't mean to laugh, but honestly, like
It's
some
our
of the
job.
stuff that addicts come up with, it's like, oh
It's
yeah, that
sad.
sounds
It's really
good. Yeah, it is.
anyway,
It
go ahead.
is. So he was recently charged with soliciting a 14-year-old online and providing sexual material, which was a police sting, and he is in jail serving 4-month sentence. He was also admitted to soliciting other girls online, not 14, and meeting the same girl for blowjobs several times. I think this information may have been on his confiscated computer. He says he will never cheat again, sure, and learned his lesson. What do you think? Somebody's saying read slower. Okay, I'm sorry. So,
but aren't they can read the questions too, can't they, Tami?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't
Anyway,
know. You guys can understand. So I guess I can only tell you more my emotional response than I can put it into words. I don't think I can fully say this as a therapist, because I have a feeling there's even more to this story. I would cut bait and run. I would get a divorce lawyer. I would leave this guy. I would move on. You have grandchildren? Is he ever around a school where there's kids playing soccer? Or when is he going to go to prison? Because if they took his computer, and let me just tell you what happens to these guys, because I do expert witness work. I work in the courts. I work for the defense of some of these gentlemen, whether it's around their losing their licenses or, these kinds of issues. He's going to, if they have his computer right now, usually what they do is they say, we're going to look at your computer and we'll let you know what we decide later. And the person then sits around thinking, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? That's when some of the people I work with kill themselves, because they think, oh my God, the police are going to find this and what's going to happen to me. And they're right. And then they will come back and they'll decide, if it was under 100 images, it's a state crime. If it was over 100 images, it's a federal crime. And if there were underage kids involved and they were out of state, he's going to go to prison for a very long time. If I was your therapist, and you told me that he admitted to soliciting other girls online, if I was your therapist, I would have to go to the police. It would be my job to say, I'm working with this woman. She said her husband did this very, very serious stuff. So you're not a spouse who's been betrayed. You have not a spouse that's been violated. You're living with a sex offender. Now, he may be interested in adult sexuality too, but he's breaking the law and he's violating kids. And, what more do you need to say, if nothing else, I want to get away from this guy for a while? He's got a 4-month sentence. I would have given him a little longer. So I think this is a great time for you to reassess how can you take care of yourself financially and emotionally. He wasn't just lying to you. I mean, this is just, he violates other people and in ways that they don't have a choice about, because when you're underage, you cannot consent. I don't care if you're a sex worker and you're 14, if that's what sadly you end up, you still can't say, okay, I'm a sex worker, I'm into it, forget my age. You still cannot consent until you can legally consent. So if they find this stuff online, the police or the FBI and their names, you're not going to see them for a very long time. And I'm not sure I'd want to see them for a long time anyway. And I'd be
Yeah.
worried about my kids and grandkids. I'd say that.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Sorry.
yeah, but that everyone goes, oh, I learned my lesson. I'm not going to do this again. And that's just not the case. So, okay. Married
Well,
15
and we'll say
years.
this one more. I'm sorry. We
But
also run a treatment center. And, this is exactly the kind of, I mean, we don't usually see hands-on offenders, but he started with porn, emotional affairs. I mean, this is an addictive pattern. So I can see him going to seeking integrity. I mean, when he comes out of treatment, in therapy, prison. In fact, sometimes you say to a parole officer, I would love to, or a lawyer, let me get him into treatment. Will that help his situation? And treatment is the best thing this person can do. Trust me. What else? I'm sorry, Tam, I
no,
interrupted
it's
you.
okay. It's the next question. Married 15 years, husband has porn addiction and has been texting and emotional affairs. We are both adopted, and I know about grief, loss, and abandonment issues that go deep. I understand this pain, and he copes through porn and the need for attention from others. He hasn't reached out for help, although he keeps promising. Should I keep hanging in there and continue to encourage and suffer, or separate for a time and hope he gets help?
I don't know if this is helpful, but sometimes I do consultations online, and they're usually about 2 hours that I'll work with a couple or I'll work with an individual. And we recently had someone whose spouse was, well, let me say it this way. The couple was, they would say to me when I met with them online, everything is great. We have the best relationship. We love each other so much. It's just that this happened. And what do we do? Because everything else is great and we work together and we live together. It's just that this happened. And what I had to say to them is, I think you're enmeshed. You guys are so caught up in each other's lives. You're so over engaged with in other words, you're so reliant on each other's stability. There's an over dependency going on here. And the reason I'm saying that is because you completely identify with his pain, because you have similar pain, but you're not taking care of yourself and sitting back and saying, what the F? Why isn't this guy, if he wants to be with me and protect us, and protect us from, look, you've been through pain and abandonment, or the words you use, grief, loss, and abandonment. Don't you realize every time he turns to the computer, you're being abandoned again? And that's about you, not about this person. If it were me, I don't know if these are the options, but so let me just say one more thing. Actually, Tammy, I'm going to ask you because I know you'll get this right. Her last sentence, I think it's a woman because I read the name.
It is. Yeah.
Should I separate in a time in hopes that he will get help?
So do you know how many phone calls I answer where people are hoping he gets help? I know that he has to be willing to do that. And I said, people don't just magically come to treatment or get real help until there's a crisis, until there's a shift where somebody has had enough. And that could be therapeutic separation. It doesn't have to be divorce. I mean, whatever is going to be the right boundary for you. But yeah, you hoping he gets to keep doing whatever he's doing. And I thought the same thing that Dr. Rob said. I was like, so you guys have, similar processes. You're adopted, all these things. I don't hear that you're a porn addict or going out, texting and things like that. You found a different way to cope. You're here. You've got a support
Right.
network, whatever you've gotten. So he could also, so it's a reason, but it's not an excuse. And Troy Love talks a lot about those attachment wounds, and he's got a partner group alternating Thursdays, and every Friday he's got a guys group, and it's really good, and it talks about those things. But he's, in my opinion, he's going to keep doing what he's doing, unfortunately, because it's scary, like we've heard in a couple other posts.
And I'll just say more directly, because Tammy, you are so sweet. You really take the time, and I'm much more of the hammer. It's like This person said they're in internal family systems therapy. They dropped a little chat. And internal family system, many therapies are very useful, but not if someone's acting out, because they are in a process. Okay, I'll just give you a little therapy secret. Our job is to raise your anxiety a little bit, just to get you uncomfortable enough to begin to look at things or open up. Because as Tami said, people who are content, they don't really want to look at things and they prefer not to. So we do a little emotional pinpricking every once in a while to help you move forward. That's part of our job. However, addicts, when they feel a little emotional pinprick, they run to their behavior. And so the therapy really isn't, you may learn things and maybe later on, if you get sober, they're really useful. But at this time, he's or she is not be able to take advantage of the therapy you're doing. And I have to say, I've worked with a lot of spouses, and I know Tami hears this all the time, who say things like, well, we've gone to, he said we should go to couples therapy. I wanted us to go to couples therapy. Couples therapy ain't it. Couples therapy, most couples therapists would not have a clue how to work with this. This would not be their forte. An affair, yes. Keeps flirting with women at work, maybe, or talks to old boyfriends online, sure. But compulsive and repetitive patterns of lying and keeping secrets and emotional violation, that requires a professional. And the first thing most of us would say is, not all of us would say, it's too soon for couples therapy, because you need to get angry. He needs to go get help. He can't turn to you for support right now because you should be really angry at him. And you can't turn to him and you don't want to turn to him for support because you don't trust him. So this is why we do all these groups on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. I am saying that it's free, but for you to get a sense of what other people who are in your situation are doing. And it may be from their strength that you think, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. No one's pain is your pain, and your pain is not anyone else's pain. You may have been through similar things, but you are different people. This man is acting out his pain and pulling the wool over your eyes at the same time. You've got to protect yourself. Some of us who grew up in abusive families did not learn when we were supposed to protect ourselves, because we didn't learn, because bad things were happening and that was just normal. But in a case like this, and you have trauma and abuse, you need to protect yourself. You don't need to go anywhere to make him do anything. You need to go somewhere because you in your own home are being lied to and betrayed and violated, and you already know what that's like. Do you want to put yourself through that again? And then if this person, as Tami says, when they feel the rope around their throat, sometimes they say, oops, I better do something about that. If, as you take care of yourself, this person decides, oh, I don't want to lose this, I want to get back on the bus, then he or she will start working on it. But you have to take care of yourself. And I think that's the thing, as Tami said, spouses don't always get, is I'll show her, I'll leave, and then they'll, great. So you give them the opportunity to see more, it has to be, I don't want to tolerate this anymore. And I don't want to support you anymore, or even be around you anymore when you're hurting me actively. And that is a reason to step away, or I'm afraid of you.
So the next question, porn addict, clean for 250 days and just finished your book, Out of the Doghouse. I'm 42 with 4-year-old daughter. My wife asked me in September if I'm using porn, and I said yes. She asked me to move out of the house, and so I've been out of my own place for 3 months. 6 months was the initial time frame. Attending SLAA, sponsored, see a therapist, as well as a CSAT once a week to work on disclosure. I want to share everything from the book as it gives me hope and a plan for reconciliation. My wife is very hurt right now and has little energy for relationship work with me, and I don't blame her. How can I support her in the meantime?
Ask her. I don't want to get in your way. I don't want to get in you may be mad at me. I know we're just in the initial stages of still, but it's been almost a year and I really do care about you. And or you can volunteer, oh, the kids need picking up. Let me just do that for you this week. Or, what did I do this? Oh, I said, why don't we order food in tonight? Try to do small things that you're doing to make someone feel better, not because you want them to respond in a particular way, because you want them to feel good, and without expectation. I'm going to do this for them. And then they're going to be really, they may not even like that you did it for them because they're going to feel like you're using them, but at least you did it. So I think that there's a lot in this question about me. How can I get my spouse to be where I want them to be? Just in the last few, you say she has little energy for our relationship with me. She's very hurt because of what you did. you're not the one who can support her. You can say, you know, I have let you down and hurt you, and I can imagine you don't want anything from me. But if there's anything I can do, helping around the house, showing up for you, getting into the, you know, whatever I can do to make it better, you know, that's your job. And she needs to know, or he needs to know, that when they are ready, I want to say one more thing about this. It's very hard to ask for help. It's very hard to ask for support in the best of circumstances. And when I'm angry at someone and they've hurt me and let me down, I don't want to turn to them for help because I'm angry and they might let me down again. So there isn't much you can do to support her. She doesn't trust you. The other thing is, I just wanted to say, I really hope that you do get back together. That's my hope for you. It
Mhm.
just sounds like you're both doing good work. And, you know, I would also say that, you know, 3 to 6 months, if you're going to be separated, and then it's probably time to start looking. I like your timeline, because I've talked to couples that Tami and I have, well, this person's been out of the house 2 years and they're hoping it's going to work out. You know, couples who are working toward things don't go that long without living back together or healing. So it sounds like you've got a great framework for doing this. And I would just be a little more curious or observant about what your spouse needs without, you know, jumping into the well. Hey, Tammy, I wanted to ask a question that was answer a question because it's a really simple one. So I was
Yes,
scrolling down, it's only one sentence. Would you please speak about love addiction?
yes.
And I just
And
wanted to say with that,
I had somebody that asked about that. They believed that they were a love addict because they were a partner of somebody that was dealing with sex addiction. And I said, I don't think that's love addict. So please do clarify. Are you there?
so all addicts are very needful people. We didn't grow up getting our needs met. We look everywhere to get our met. We use drugs and alcohol to get our needs, you know, so we desperately search to get attention and to feel okay and validated and all that stuff. That's who we are. Sometimes when we're presented with the possibility, a date, a person, sex, whatever that is, how do I say this? When I meet someone who has the potential to meet my needs and be emotionally available and make me feel what I didn't get when I was a kid, I just can get so emotional about it that I can't see them clearly. Meaning, oh, look at the moonbeams in their eyes, and look, there's skylight coming out of their head, and I can't stop talking to every friend I know about them, and every minute we want to be together, and that's perfectly fine. Except if you haven't noticed that they're doing heroin and they're still married to someone else and they're relying on you to pay for dinner. You know, I think that what happens is love addicts lose the ability to discern. They have a problem with discernment. Their needs become so great that they overlook the reality of who they're with. And then they punish that person, because that once they realize, oh, I'm with someone who they're not who I thought that they were, then they make that person wrong for not being who they wanted them to be. And so the answer is a little bit what we talked about before. It's getting nurtured and fulfilled yourself. It's understanding that you yourself probably won't make good choices around support around who knows you and knows your stuff, and you can tell them about your dates, and then they can say yes, go on another date, or don't go on another date. Here's a simple way to stay sober. If you're a sex addict, find a really good person in 12-step recovery who's going to be there for you, and they've got solid recovery, and say, would you be willing to take a call whenever I feel like having sex? And if I don't get through with you, I'm going to go through to you and you and you. This is what alcoholics do. I feel like drinking. Well, instead of drinking, I'm going to call this person first. You know, we are no different. We want to run into disconnection. And so love addiction. It's about making bad choices over and over again because you're so needful that you lose the ability to discern the good people from the bad people. And in order to do that, you need to give up on the idea that you're going to pick the right person and let people who know your stuff help you find someone. I will say one more thing about dating, by the way. If you want a good understanding of whether you're dating the right person or not, bring them around your family, bring them around your friends, bring them. If you find yourself saying, oh, I don't think they're ready to meet my friends, and maybe then you're probably with the wrong person, because who are the best people to reflect back to you how this is and if this is going to work for you? The people that love you and care about you. If these are the people who do, then here's the hard part. You have to listen. If everyone you love says, oh, I don't like this guy, you know, she's not whatever, listen to them, step back and pay attention. Don't say, oh, well, they don't really know him or her, or that's love addiction. Tami, thank you for your time. And, you know, I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow for work somewhere online.
Yes. And thank you all for the questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them, but join us. We've got other webinars. We've got drop-in groups. Join all of those on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. Grateful for all of you. Thank you, Dr. Rob. Bye,
And start your
everybody.
questions early, and that way they'll
Yeah.
get answered. Just jump right in there. See you guys later.